Welcome to RGBA, colorful tech news and reviews. This is episode 54. My name is Alexandre Vallière-Lagacé, and I'm joined by my co-host, Tyler Ménard.
So we had a bit of bad news this week, if you want. Chris Lattner, I don't know if you remember, 5 months ago, quit Apple and joined Tesla to work on the autopilot team. And this week he announced that he is leaving Tesla because it wasn't what he expected, and he's looking for a new job.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive that this guy with this awesome resume did not find a fit there. And you're saying, 5 months, he couldn't have done much things. But then you take a look at his resume. Resume on his website. As VP of Autopilot Software, he has released a bunch of major updates. I don't know what's the extent of which he was involved in all those things, but it looks to me like he was very busy at Tesla. Just for example, they evolved the autopilot for hardware 2, which is basically based on sensors made by Tesla instead of using third-party sensors. Probably kickstarted by the fact that there was one accident where a Tesla Model S ran into
the side of a truck.
Side of a truck, which was a reflective surface, and it kind of threw out the sensors. So starting from that point, I think Tesla decided to do their own sensors for that. And yeah, basically high-speed auto steer, summon, lane departure warning, lane change, automatic. There's a bunch of features that were released with hardware version 2 where he was involved at some level, I would say. But 5 months for all this thing, it's quite impressive.
I don't know do you think there's any chance that he's coming back to Apple?
Probably. I don't think he left in a negative way. He probably just left because he did what he had to do, and then maybe the way the company was structured was getting too heavy on his shoulders in terms of overhead and management, and he wanted to be more hands-on, and he left because that's natural, and maybe that gave the company a warning, and maybe they'll say, okay, come back, we'll change the way it's set up. Remember a couple of years ago, it was the same thing with our favorite designer of all. He wanted to leave Apple, and basically rumors say that he wanted to leave Apple, the main reason being that he didn't want to do management so much and more just design. So what Apple did is that they hired 2 directors just below him so that they can handle, I would say, the administrative part of the work, and he would be able to still be involved in the design process.
And I think we talked about it last time when he left too. We said a lot of people, they leave Apple to get a better job and they come back to Apple after that with even a higher position. It's a way to go up in the company almost.
Yeah, that can be it also. I don't know if they're going to make him VP of something. Now that because he was senior architect and director for developer tools. Now he went as VP of Autopilot Software, and maybe he's coming back to Apple as VP of Autopilot Software. Wink, wink.
Yeah.
Because whatever he did at Tesla can also be very useful for Apple with their autonomous driving system being built. And now that it's been confirmed, maybe all this points to the fact that he's going to be working on that at Apple when he comes back. So that can also be it. Another SVP that was quite interesting to watch this week. Last week we discussed that there was going to be a interview done by the Computer History Museum where they were going to interview Scott Forstall, which was the SVP of software development at Apple a couple of years ago before Steve died and everything, and then he left Apple. Well, he did this interview, which is about, I would think it's an hour long or something. And it was very interesting. The guy, I rarely saw him outside of the keynote events. So he's very structured and direct. And
even though he had the same shirt on, you saw him
Yeah. You said it's not the same. But
Whatever.
yeah, it's probably the same. And yeah, but the guy is very, very interesting. He's a good photographer. He had like experience with sharks and stuff and everything, so good stories to discuss. And then when he moved on to the Apple stuff, it was pretty interesting to see his way, the way he saw his relationship with Steve Jobs and the development of the iPhone. So I strongly encourage you to go and watch this interview. It's with the Daring Fireball, the talk show, interview every year with the Apple's exec. This is, I would say, to the same level. Very interesting.
And you told me this too. He's a very good storyteller.
It's basically just the way that he presents a story and he cuts it down into pieces,
The pacing.
and his intonation and everything. Yeah, pacing and everything. So that's, he learned from the best. So no wonder he's good.
And he talks about his interview process at Next. It's pretty cool. I started listening to it and I'm not done.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool interview.
I'd like to see him on the talk show.
Yeah, that would be nice. Like, I don't know if the three could be together.
Probably not.
Nah, but yeah.
And I don't know. Did you listen to the first part of the panel there with Nitin Granatra and all that?
Not
Okay,
yet.
no, me
Not
neither.
yet. I have to go back to that. I just wanted to listen to first hour first and see exactly, because he's been totally silent for the last like 4 or 5 years.
I think it's 5, they say.
So yeah, so I was surprised to see that he finally opens up for some interviews and stuff, because he was probably asked like
100
billion
million times. Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. But now, he's opening up, and it's pretty nice.
Do you think it's his NDA that's done?
Maybe he had a 5-year NDA, and now he can talk. We'll never know really for sure, but maybe in a book, like in 10 or 15 years, we'll learn more about his exit process. Talking about SVPs exiting, there's a CEO that is exiting his company. Right. So the board of Uber basically fired Travis Kalanick, which was the founder and CEO of Uber. He had a bunch of problems in the past couple of months. The company has problems with sexual harassment and respecting its employees and its workers and partners and everything. So not to do a whole summary of the whole thing, but basically the guy has problems because the way the company is structured and the way the company thinks is basically reflects the way his CEO thinks. And in this specific case, the board said, okay, now it's enough. Like, you have to go. And he was already like on a leave, temporary leave, because I think he lost his parents in a boating accident.
He was in a leave of absence.
So he was already like on personal leave of absence for a couple of of weeks or months. We don't know. But then the board said, you know what, like, just stay out of here. We'll manage without you.
So. But if you read the article,
morning,
apparently he wasn't really on a leave of absence.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, that's why they said, like, okay, get out of here.
Okay, that is pretty interesting. So yeah, even more deception from Uber. So.
Yeah.
And this morning there was even an article that said that 1,000 employees of Uber are asking the board to rehire him. Yeah. So that is pretty weird. So, because the guy has vision, the guy has ideas, but I think he's a bit too disruptive in terms of
he's a bit toxic.
CEO. Yeah, and he's not afraid to like do something illegal until it becomes legal. So it can be good and disruptive for some industries, but it's not the ideal type of person. He's not charismatic enough to explain his thought process and get people to understand and follow his vision. He basically just swarm in a room and kick everybody in the face and then go out and he's done, you know.
And also there's I don't know if you remember Bozama St. John's. She was the Apple Music exec that gave the presentation. I think it was last year's WWDC. Well, she's going over to Uber also. It was announced like on the day of the keynote. I don't know if we talked about it, but I just thought about it right now since we're talking about Uber.
No, I think we skipped it. Yeah, we skipped it. But yeah, it's a big hire for Uber. What's her exact title? I think it's head of VP of
fun.
VP of fun.
But yeah, it's something like that.
Okay, well, yeah. So it's a big plus for Uber. Hopefully, they're going to be able to use her and change the company values for real, and not just by releasing a press release and saying the opposite of what everybody else is saying. There's an acquisition that was done this week. Basically, Amazon, which is whoever you know it is, basically the big online store with now a couple of freaky get inside, get your food, and just run away building system, now acquired Whole Foods. So yeah, so Whole Foods is a big chain,
Supermarket?
Supermarket, not as big as others, but for what it is in terms of natural products and very specific brands,
very high end.
that you can, very high end. Only there you can find certain things. Amazon acquires them, so it's probably just a push to get, since they have like, what did I read, like 55 stores or something like that.
I don't know. Yeah,
it's not that big of a chain. So 460 store in the US, Canada, and UK. Okay, so it's more than I thought. So it's enough stores that it can give Amazon like an edge and be able to introduce, maybe in the most recent one or the larger one or smaller ones, whatever they prefer, their technology of self-serving and self-billing when you exit the store. So that's a natural acquisition, I would say. It's a market that they already know, being selling stuff online, and now Whole Foods has the experience of mass market brick and mortar store, and combining the two together can be very beneficial for Amazon.
I didn't think about that. I forgot about the Amazon store experience thing they opened in Seattle, I think.
Yeah, it's in Seattle because that's where their headquarters is located.
It would be a lot faster to just try it with a couple of Whole Food stores.
Yeah. And also Whole Foods being Whole Foods, like you said, it's more premium products. So they're more expensive, and there are probably fewer products than you can find at other big chains.
I think they have a good presence in the Bay Area and all that, so it'd be perfect as a fit to technical people to try out the new special checkout thing.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe Amazon was trying to open one in there, but there's no spaces available for a new store like that, or it's not going to be located where they want it to be located. But after research, maybe they realize that wherever they want to implement themselves, there's a Whole Foods. So just buy Whole Foods,
right?
And you'll be
13
done.
13 billion, 13 Instagrams.
Yeah. 13.7, almost 14 Instagrams.
Sorry.
So that's it for the news. There's a discussion going on for the last couple of weeks/months. We already discussed this issue at length. The size of iOS apps updates. Facebook, for example, was at a point almost 400 megs. Now I think they did some cleanup of their code base and they are down to 340, I think. So it's still a lot. And then there's other people, like we mentioned Marco Arment with Overcast, which is like 14 megs. There's also a very nice camera app, which I already purchased, which is Halid. Basically, this one is 11 megs. And they even add in their release notes of the last version that they shaved off like 400 kbs. So that's pretty rare to see in the release notes. One of the developers of this app, Ben Sandowski, basically posted a long article on how to keep your app size low. They compare it to a major social app. They don't really name it, but they can have 38 copies of Halid inside one of this major social app update. So he goes over different ways to basically reduce the size of your app, like assets catalog, crushing your PNGs, using JPEG for photos, and then there's also the difficult conversation of only including the code you really need to include. Basically, if you leverage auto layout of iOS instead of using your own framework, then you are using something that is not included in your app but in the OS, so it's even a smaller app size for you. And not to use 1,000 different libraries for 1,000 different things, And when you end up using a library, try to find one that does specifically what you're doing and not 25,000 other things. Because what happens is that, yes, it does that one thing that you really need, but you'll need to include like a framework file or a library that's like 50 megs, 100 megs or more for something that you're not even using.
And I think it's like especially bad with big companies. We talked about it when Facebook, like a lot of departments are working on the app, and they'd all include the same library, and they wouldn't talk to each other to say, hey, you can just use our library. We include it already. You don't have to add your library as well. So we see a big difference with like little indie apps, if you want, that are more clean and like from one developer or small teams.
Yeah, because one developer does not have the bandwidth to do data analysis the same way that big companies can do. So they include a bunch of different frameworks to get some big data out of their usage of the app. And people will then realize that, okay, this employee asked for this library because he wants to get those number out. And then this other marketing guy wants this library because he wants this information out of the app. So basically everybody has their own request and everybody has their own metric they want to pull. And because of that, they all need their own libraries. And in the end, there's some overlap. Like library A does 20% of library B, and library B does 50% of library C, but they have to include all three because they need 100% of each of those. So that's how it gets quite big. Okay, moving on to Review Corner. I posted my review of the Magic Bridge, which is a 12 South product that is helping you clean up your desk and not being irritated by some feature of the Magic Trackpad. Let me explain. Let's say you have a desk, be it like a glass desk or a wooden desk, no matter. You have a Magic keyboard and a Magic Trackpad, and they're side by side. It's pretty fun. They're the same size, same design, so they look very nice together. But what happens often is when you move your hands from the keyboard to the trackpad is you end up pushing the trackpad away. So eventually you just change its angle. And when you're expecting the cursor to go in that direction, it goes slightly off. So this gets on my nerve so much that a couple years ago, when I had the old version of the keyboard and the trackpad, I tried to look up for some solution like a bar that you can set the specific battery bulge into so that they don't move on your desk. Well, this Magic Bridge does exactly that. It allows you to set your keyboard and your trackpad in a tray where they are sticked together and they don't move. So basically, you just slide in your keyboard and you snap it in place, and then you do the same thing with the Magic Trackpad. And they are basically on a little tray, and yeah, they don't move. They have big rubber feet, so they don't move on your desk, and they stay close together. And that even also reduces the space between the keyboard and the trackpad, so your end movement is probably smaller than it would be without it. That's a good thing for ergonomics. Every port, like the two charging port and the two on-off buttons, are reachable from the back. There's little openings for that, so that's perfect. And if you're lefty, then you can just slide in a gray piece of plastic, and it reversed the position of the keyboard and the trackpad. So the trackpad goes to the left and the keyboard to the right. This is a dumb product. It's just a piece of plastic that's specifically molded for the Magic Keyboard and the Magic Trackpad too. So sold by 12 South. It's a bit expensive. That's my only complaint, I would say, because it does exactly what it's promising to do, and it does it very well. That's not a question there. The only thing, it's a bit expensive for such piece of plastic. It's good quality though, so it's going to last many years, probably until the Magic Trackpad 3 comes out with a different shape for sure. And then they could also like update their Magic Bridge to be a Magic Bridge 2, and then still work with the new devices.
It's super thin, right? So it doesn't add to the thickness of the whole thing.
Oh no, it's like millimeters thick. So it's maybe it adds like a 1 millimeter or 2, maybe not even 2, maybe just 1.5 on thickness. And on the sides, it's It basically just a few places where there's a little flap that holds the keyboard in place and the trackpad. So it's not even like a full border around both devices. It's just little tabs if you want. So you can find this on 12 South's website. The links will be in the show notes. If you have the keyboard and the Magic Trackpad right now, I strongly encourage you to look at those. It's pretty nice product. It's well thought of, and it's really worth it if you want to clean up your desk, have your devices always at the same position and not move around. So that's pretty useful. Moving on to something else. This is a particular topic because I'm really not sure what I should think about this. So let me maybe go a bit back into the past of 2 weeks ago. There's a company called Tinboard that are promising to release an electric skateboard. They did so about 2 weeks ago by launching an IndieGoGo campaign, and they were promising a board for about $500, which has the specs of usually boards that are $1,500. So it was pretty interesting. They kind of took the same approach as Juice Board, meaning that they tried to use a Chinese board and they customized it and they were releasing it to the masses like that. So what you were paying for was basically a ready-made Chinese board where they would then go on and change some components to make it better. But the thing is that the price that they were announcing it for 2 weeks ago was lower than the retail price of the Chinese board that it was offered when you were doing bulk orders. So this was fishy. So, and then there was a problem. Following the company on Instagram and following the discussion on Reddit, and people were emailing the CEO, as I was doing also, trying to understand what happened. Basically, there was a kerfuffle between Tinboard and the Chinese provider. Some say that the company tried to get the board but did not negotiate, and then the Chinese company gave threats about suing Tinboard because they were not doing, they were not saying it was a modified board of theirs. So big problem, because usually what happens is there are often boards that are exclusive and made from Chinese company, but they have an agreement and they have a reserved, if you want, a number of months where they have the exclusivity for this board. But this does not seem to be discussed properly in advance. So moving on to this week, the campaign was re-released. The board is now even better, and same price, but even better. And now it has off-road capability, so you can get big wheels and go off-road. It's waterproof now, and it does not look like it's the exact same board as before. So we are not sure exactly where this board comes from. And then people started to dig on Reddit, as they usually do. And we realized that the pictures you have of the different founders on IndieGoGo are actually stock photos of nice-looking men. So that kind of opened the door for some fishy stuff. And then people tried to look up who registered the domain. And it's the same as the same company registered another e-board domain name, and they're all based in Slovenia and not in UK as the campaign is advertising. So basically, over the first couple of hours, they sold maybe 9 or 10 boards, and then I just looked at Tinboard right now on IndieGoGo, and they are exactly at zero backer for $0, and they have 1 month left. So basically, everyone who was looking to get one of these basically said, not worth the risk. So, yeah, they're saying they're in Switzerland, sorry, not in UK. So they're supposedly in Zurich, Switzerland. And there's also some guy on Reddit that says that Brenner Ltd, the company behind Tinboard, is not actually registered at all. So this gets fishy and fishier every day. Right now, the campaign has been updated and the story is an empty space. So once again, it's going to disappear. I don't know. I wrote a post on it. I still have to update it. Right now, at least you cannot, you can back the board, but there's no story. So you're not even sure what you're going to get at the end. I would strongly recommend you to stay away from this campaign for now, and maybe just skip tin board completely, as regular boards tend to really take a long time to ship. And just think about the Mellow boards, even the Z board. Like, people backed those during summer, and then they only received it the following summer, because those are companies that are actually making the parts that they need for their boards. They're not just getting like a shipment of Chinese-made board and just rebranding them with their logos. So that's why it usually takes longer. So don't back this company, because it gets to a point where even I, who discussed with this CEO a bunch of times over email, which seemed very legit, basically I'm not recommending you do so, because it doesn't seem like this thing will go very far, and people are even saying that there was just a scam to get people's money and never deliver anything. So,
well, it goes pretty far. It goes 25 miles.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
No, I know. I was just kidding. Because you say it's not going to go very far. Well, 25 miles is pretty far.
Yeah. Sorry, that wasn't my.
Yeah,
my
I know.
thoughts.
I know you didn't get it. But IndieGoGo is pretty loose on these kind of rules, right? It's not as strict as a Kickstarter.
Yeah, I would like to just start IndieGoGo and Kickstarter just to understand what's the process there, because I tend to see this thing happen a lot more on IndieGoGo than on Kickstarter. So, but what do Kickstarter do, like, on top of what IndieGoGo does to prevent this kind of thing? I don't know, maybe they really go check if the company exists. Maybe they do check, like, if the founder image are correct, and maybe they don't accept campaigns that have, like, no the founders are not in the video. I don't know what's the whole thinking there, but there must be something that they're doing, because Kickstarter tends to not deliver when there's problem with production. For example, I backed some video games on there, and I'm still waiting. It's been like 3 years, so, like, it's still going on, the development, but it's not even sure I'm going to eventually get that game. But that's something. And there's other campaigns that I backed on IndieGoGo where we just never saw anything. We saw a bunch of pictures from Chinese factory, and then that was it. Like, we never saw the product. We never got anything from those. And this tends to happen a lot more on IndieGoGo than anything else. So for IndieGoGo, what I'm basically backing on that service is mostly documentaries. So movies about TV shows, about computer history and stuff, because these tend to be done by the same company once and over and over. And after one that I backed at the minimum level, when they come back with a second documentary, I'm tempted to just give a bit more money, because I know that they can deliver, and they deliver in a reasonable amount of time.
And I think you've been, like, on the chase for an electric board, and we realize how many companies are actually trying to make one, and they close and they don't deliver, and it's really weird.
Yeah, it's a very hyped market at the moment. They've been around us since 2012, I think. That's when the boosted board came out, and the Evolve boards. But, like, it's been like 5 years, but now it's like you can get a lot of Chinese-made board. There's a lot of company who just takes the board and changes the physical wooden board to some other shape, and they call it a day. You can see that usually from the remotes, because the remotes don't change really the shape. There's also a bunch of companies who are trying to do their own thing. Like I said, Boosted Board, Evolve, Z Board, Mellow. There's a bunch like that are actually, like, delivering good products, but they do tend to take months, and if not a year or more. Some of those were backed in 2015, and the guys who backed those campaign are still waiting for their boards, or barely just receiving them. At the same time, there's a Chinese company, Storyboard, who did this exact same thing. Is that they're Chinese, but they did the exact same thing that Mellow and Evolve did, is that they did a campaign and they did their board, and now I'm starting to see on Reddit people receiving their boards, but it's been more than a year. But this is a Chinese company, but still they did it right. So it's pretty interesting. Off the top of my head, I know there's maybe like a bunch, like maybe 25 to 30 major companies right now doing that. You really just need to look at the company itself. What do they promise? Because also the numbers they promise is not necessarily always the same. They promise you 20 miles, you get 15 or less, or you get 15 if you do one single straight line. But if you do 5 miles at a time and you stop, then you cannot do more than 5 or 6. So it's very complicated. So that's why people are still tempted, and I understand, to pay more and to get something that's a brand that you can trust, like the inboard, the Evolve or the boosted board, which have been on the market for like 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And these numbers that they gave you, like if they tell you that a boosted board can do 7 miles, you will be able to do 7 miles. And yeah, so that's basically it. I was surprised by the Juiced. The Juiced was pretty interesting for me. I know it was a Chinese rebrand, but even that did not make the product bad per se. I only had it for a week and a couple days. Of course, I don't know if over the course of, 1 month or 2 months of recharging, the battery can die. We'll have to see. At the moment, Juice Board campaign ended, I think, June 23rd. That was yesterday.
It's today.
Is it? That's today. So it just ended, and they were able to get $251,000. So 503% what they were expecting. We don't have the numbers yet, because IndieGoGo, when it's done, they hide the number of
backers,
things that were claimed. Yeah, backers. So I can just do a quick. So it's about 400 to 500 people who backed this campaign. I know I helped them quite a bit. I had the exclusive review of the board. So the first one that they sent to reviewers, that was me. And since publishing my review and posting it in the Reddit forums, they got like a 21K more investment of people. Probably I can safely say it's from my coverage. So they were pretty happy with that. And then Casey Neistat also got one. He basically bashed it compared to a boosted board. You can, what was the show? 51? Yeah, 51 or 52. This is where I discussed the Juice board. You can check episode 52, RGBA.fm/52 for my detailed review. I won't go back and re-review the board. But yeah, so I'm still looking for one. I'm still interested in reviewing a bunch more. But the more I email those companies and try to see, this board actually has the same remote as the other one. And then you take a little trip to Alibaba Express and you realize that the same board is being sold from China for half the price. So, okay, it's just a rebrand, it's just a reskin or whatever. So it's a pretty special market, I would say.
Yeah, and in the meantime, you went back to the good old non-electric, reliable, always working skateboard.
Yeah, I actually got a penny nickel board, and it's pretty fun. I already modified it because when I get into something like that, I start reading about it and try to understand exactly how everything works on such a device. And so basically, I added a grip tape on top because I had a little incident where my foot actually slid and I hit the pavement quite hard. So yeah, because I got new shoes recently and there's no grip really on a penny board if you have new hard plastic shoes. Even though they're skate shoes, they're not grippy. So the grip tape really makes a difference. I'm probably gonna review more and more of these accessories in the coming weeks and months on the blog, so you'll be able to follow along my little adventures with skateboards in 2017 and hopefully more electric skateboards also. All right, so that's it for this week. This was episode number 54. You can find the show notes at rgba.fm/54. You can find the show on Twitter at _RGBAfm, and I am on Twitter at Vallier, VALLIERES.
And I'm Tyler Menard, TYLERMENARD.
Have a nice week.
Have a nice week.